Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Jenny Halpin, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Group Captain Paul Murray. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. Now, if you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. With golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
If you require a seat, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, flowers of the forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private David Thomas Francis. David Francis was born in January 1894 at Oswestry, England. He was the fifth of 6 children born to William and Sarah Francis. The family lived in Shropshire for David's childhood, moving from one village to a second. David's mother died in July 1898, leaving his father to care for their 6 young children alone. David attended the local Church of England school with his siblings. In 1910, David's father also died, and the children were placed in the care of their uncle. A year later, at age 17, David left England for Australia. He settled in Townsville and started working as a labourer in the town. David enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 26th of March 1915. He was assigned to the 15th Infantry Battalion in the rank of private and commenced pre-embarkation training. David left Australia on the 12th of June 1915 in HMAT Karula, bound first for Egypt and then for Dardanelles and the Gallipoli Peninsula. David arrived in Gallipoli on the 31st of July 1915 and immediately joined the rest of the 15th Battalion in preparing for the August offensive. Within a few weeks of the landing on Gallipoli, the Ottomans and Allied forces had entered a stalemate. Eager to break through the Ottoman lines and resume the planned rush towards Constantinople, the British planned to attack multiple positions along the peninsula. The 15th Battalion, as part of the 4th Brigade, were ordered to seize the high ground between Hill 971 and Tunic Bear. The battalion left its bivouac lines in Reserve Gully at around 10:20 p.m. on the 6th of August and moved into positions for the start of the attack. Although the battalion successfully advanced in the early morning of the 7th, by dawn it was still well short of its objective due to the difficult terrain. The 4th Brigade attempted to capture the summit of Hill 971 on the 8th of August, but was thwarted by the Ottoman defence and the rough terrain. By the night of the 8th of August, the 15th Battalion had sustained over 500 casualties, including 102 missing. One of the missing was Private David Francis. It proved difficult to determine what had happened to him during the battle. He was initially reported wounded and missing by his battalion immediately after the attack. In April 1916, a court of inquiry was held at Serapeum to determine the fate of many of the men who had been declared missing in action on Gallipoli. After hearing a handful of witness statements, many of which were contradictory or vague, the court determined that David Francis had been killed in action on Gallipoli on the 8th of August 1915. However, during gravesite consolidation work in the 1920s, representatives from the Imperial War Grave Commission located David's grave in Ferrycoy Protestant Cemetery in Constantinople, 260 kilometres away from the Gallipoli Peninsula. His grave suggested that David had in fact been taken prisoner of war by the Ottomans during the fighting on the 8th of August, and he had later died of wounds in Constantinople sometime after the date of the offensive. David was 21 years old when he died. His remains were exhumed from Ferrycoy Cemetery and reinterred at Haydar Pasha Cemetery in January 1931. His date of death is still listed as the 8th of August 1915. His name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today at the Pool of Reflection. This is one but many of the stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private David Thomas Francis, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we are left that grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.